Hi everyone, this is the third page of the Chapter 1 test review. Let's jump right in with number 18 here. This is identify the domain and range of each of the following functions. So that's really, those directions are for 18 and 19. Okay, so the domain, remember, is like your x values. And so when you've got ordered pairs, your x values are the first coordinates. So your domain here, blow this up, give myself a little more space. Domain, I would just list out 2, 3, -9, and -0.5. And then the range are all your y values. So I would list -2, -3, +9, and +0.5. So same thing for number 19. Your domain, and it's not enough to just say all the x's or all the y's. I want you to actually list the numbers. So domain would be -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And then your range would be the y numbers. Now remember, if they repeat, you don't have to repeat them. So you can just write -1 and 1. Okay, let's take a look at 20. These next few are asking you to write some expressions and equations. This goes way back to like the first couple of days of school. The dimensions of a building are 100 times as large as the dimensions of its model. If the model is x centimeters long, give an expression for the floor's length in the actual building. Okay, so we know the model is x, and the building is 100 times as large. So 100 times is sort of the phrase I want you to hone in on. That makes it so that the floor's length is equal to 100 times the model. So it would be 100x. That's all that's asking you to do. So 21, there are S students per bus and B buses. How many students are there total? Well, if it helps you to think about this with numbers, do that. So let's suppose there were 10 students on every bus. I'm just making these numbers up if you're worried about where I'm getting them from. Let's suppose there were 10 students on every bus, and there were 5 buses. Ask yourself, how many students would there be total? Well, you would do 10 times 5, right? So for your answer to this problem, my total number of students would be S times B, because you'd take the number of students and multiply by the number of buses. Okay, number 22, and I asked you in here specifically to write an equation and solve, just because I sort of know what this question looks like on your test. So make sure you're following along with that. Lewis has 20 pieces of gum. He gives a piece to each of his friends, and he has 5 pieces of gum left over. So I'm going to go through the entire process to set up a formula here, set up an equation. My variable is his friends. I want to know how many friends he has. So in my equation where I see his friends, I'm going to make that my x. And I know he's starting with 20. And if he's giving away his gum, he's subtracting it. So he's starting with 20. He's giving away gum to X friends. And then he has 5 left over. So that's going to be equal to 5. Okay, so the equation I'm really trying to solve is 20 minus X equals 5. Now, lots of you, again, I know, can solve that in your head. But what I really want to see is that you can write an equation for that. So I would subtract 20, and I end up with -x equals -15. So if -x equals -15, then x would just equal 15. Okay, so he has 15 friends. I guess I should specify that. Okay. All right, 23. The famous scientist Galileo found a relationship between distance, which we're representing with the function d of t, that a dropped object falls in relation to time t. This whole problem is just getting you used to those scary word problems that have a formula in them. Remember we talked about those, that sometimes they have a formula or an equation sitting inside of them, and then a bunch of blah, blah, blah that you don't even really need other than to figure out what the values represent. So we have this formula, d of t equals 16t squared. And I know from reading the problem, now let me shrink that down so you can see it. Okay, I know from reading the problem that the d represents distance, and right here it says t represents time. Okay, so that's really your first goal with one of these problems. It doesn't matter if you know anything about Galileo or physics. You just have to be able to find the equation and plug the right numbers in. So you've got 1.5 seconds. That's your time value. So I'm just going to put 1.5 in there for t. I guess this will work. So I'm going to do d. Really, I'm doing d of 1.5. because I'm plugging 1.5 in for t. So that would be 16 times 1.5 squared, and that will give you 36. And that is 36, oh, I guess I didn't say here, but that should be in feet, I believe. Yes. 36 feet. Okay, so that was just a plug the number in and solve, kind of like the first few on the first page, just this one surrounded it with a bunch of scary words. Same thing with number 24. 24 surrounds it with scary words too. Talks about the function s is defined by s of x equals x plus x squared over 20. That's the stopping distance of a car compared to the speed. Okay, so x represents my speed, and that's really all I need to know here, because it says how many feet does it take for a car traveling 70 miles an hour to stop. So I'm just going to put 70 in for my x's here. So I'm going to say s of 70, because I'm plugging 70 in for x, equals 70 plus 70 squared over 20. And it's just a matter of calculating that. Okay, I come out with 315, and again that's in feet, so 315 feet on that one. Okay, next video I'll cover page number 4.